All right, we'll get moving and we'll start the recording in the webcast. All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to bring to order the BACT Scientific Review Committee meeting. Before we jump into the meeting, we'll touch on housekeeping comments. So thank you for participating in our hybrid meeting for South Coast AQMD BACT Scientific Review Committee meeting. We have three formats for participation: in person, the Zoom app, and teleconference. Please silence your other communication devices to prevent disruptions during the meeting. In-person attendees must not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the meeting room. All participants on Zoom, except for Scientific Review Committee members and South Coast AQMD staff, will be placed on mute by the host. And, you will not be able to mute or unmute your line manually. After each agenda item, public comment will be taken. For those in the room, you will be called upon when it is your turn to speak. For those on Zoom, if you would like to make public comment on the Zoom screen, please click the raise hand button. For those calling in by phone, you can dial in or you can dial *9 to signal that you would like to comment. Your name or part of your phone number will be called when it is your turn to comment, and the host will unmute your line automatically. We do want to promote open dialogue in this meeting. If it is necessary, due to time constraints, speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes for all the items on the agenda, or 3 minutes or less for public comment. The meeting chair may provide a shorter length of time depending on the number of requests to speak received to allow everyone the opportunity to be heard. Please note you can hang up and leave the Zoom meeting at any time. In regards to decorum, please treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being dropped from the meeting. Lastly, please be aware that this video conference is being recorded. By participating in the meeting hosted by South Coast AQMD, you agree to authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during this live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD. And lastly, for our in-person attendees, in the event of emergency, if we need to evacuate, we do have the 2 exits. Please follow staff to the parking lot in that event. And also the facilities are through the back door, two sets of doors, and on your left. So that does conclude our housekeeping remarks. Again, welcome everybody online, especially in person. Really thank you for coming out. We'll want to start to get through our presentation here. Just some points of order. As we go through the presentation today, what we'd like to do is get through the presentation and then get to task force questions at the end of it. We will be breaking for that, and then public comment. That's just in order to get through the slides we have. And then I think from there, we're going to jump into roll call. Tina?
Hi, my name is Bettina Burley-Sanchez, and I'm the senior engineer in the BACT team here at AQMD. So we're going to do the roll call. I'm going to call out the organization and you just say your name for me, okay? So San Diego County Air Pollution Control District.
Good afternoon, Mohsen Nazemi with San Diego APCD. And this will be my last SRC meeting since I'm retiring next month.
Congratulations. Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District.
David Harris.
Los Angeles County Sanitation District.
Larissa Nisawa.
Los Angeles Department of Water and Power.
Bang Feng.
Orange County Sanitation District. Southern California Edison.
Kendra Jukes.
Southern California Gas.
Deanna Friend.
US EPA Region 9.
Hello, Nidia Trejo.
California Resources Board,
Hi, Paul Moranian.
California Alliance of Small Business Associations,
Bill Lamar,
Rad Tech International, Western States Petroleum Association,
Ramin Ross,
University of California, Riverside,
Wayne Miller,
University of Southern California,
Jiaqin Zhang,
Foul Weather Consulting, Montrose Environmental Solutions,
Carl Laney. And Montrose is now on Terrace.
on Terrace.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll leave a card.
thank you.
Thanks.
Ship and Shore Environmental, and York Engineering.
All right, thank you very much. And I did, actually, if you want to do one more roll call, we just had a member join us.
No problem.
I'll just note that Orange County Sanitation is present.
Rhonda, good to see you.
I did skip one very important step. I'm Jason Aspel, Deputy Executive Officer of Engineering and Permitting here at South Coast AQMD. We will introduce the rest of staff that is here around the table. Why don't we start with the end of the table? Mike, if you can go down.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Morris, Planning and Rules Manager.
Hello, David Ono, Engineering Manager.
Bahar Farahani, Program Supervisor,
Bettina Burley Sanchez. Back team.
Angela Shibata, Senior Air Quality Engineering Manager over the Waste Management and Permitting Team.
Brian Tomasovic, Assistant Chief Deputy Counsel.
Hi, Travis Rohde, Senior Engineer with the Waste Management Permitting Team.
Bhaskar Chandan, Manager in Refinery Engineering Permitting.
Colin Eckerly, Program Supervisor in Source Testing.
All right, so thank you, staff, for joining us today. Let's jump in. First, actually, do want to check in with our remote locations for EPA and CARB. Is there anyone attending your locations today?
There's no one here.
Okay, I heard no one, no.
Hi, Carb.
All right. All right. Do you want to get to approval of minutes? Is there any task force member that has comments on the minutes that was sent out previous to the meeting? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to go a little more. I see Bill.
No, I just was going to say I would move approval.
I was just going to ask for a motion. Is there a second? Second from San Diego. Thank you, Mohsen. All right, moving on. Let's get into our first agenda item. If we could start the slides, please. All right, I think as long as I've been dealing with the BACT program and the BACT SRC, I don't think we've had an action item before us, but we do have one today. And this is a vote to allow the Brown Act teleconferencing option under SB 707. So this does not apply to our governing board meetings or elected officials that are participating in a committee in their official capacity. None of you are elected officials on this committee. So what it does is for non-elected committee members, you would be able to attend committees remotely without the traditional Brown Act noticing requirements, posting the agenda, Also, the address on the agenda. You would be able to fully participate. At the May board meeting, the governing board did make findings to allow the eligible committees to teleconference under these provisions. So under this new procedure, the committee or body must designate a location where members of the public can still physically attend. We will still be here at headquarters holding these meetings. We still do hope that you come out in person. However, we do understand you do have other duties to attend to. But we will be here for the public to attend and participate in the meetings and provide public comment. A member who does utilize this provision, a committee member, does have to appear on camera the entire time during the open portion of the meeting, unless the camera is not infeasible due to technology. I do believe there's some other allowances for health, and internet connectivity, but do have to announce their reason for non-appearance prior to turning their camera off. So essentially, this simplifies your participation remotely in this BACT SRC. So before we go to a vote, I do want to ask if any task force members have questions. I see a couple right now. Bill Amar.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, Jason, in the past, permit streamlining and BACT SRC, I've always had to notify you folks, I think it's 72 hours in advance or something like that. And my location had to be posted. I had to have a sign outside my door that there was a meeting in progress. Does that all go away now? And if I didn't, I couldn't. Not only could I not vote, I couldn't even ask a question. As a member of the public. So is that gone away, or is that still there?
That would, I don't want to say make it go away, but I think there's the vote, if approved, would allow for you not to post the agenda, to participate, be on camera, ask questions.
It's not it's not a matter of being on camera. I mean, that's not
Yes.
it, but it's everything else. And
Yes.
there've been a few times where I just forgot and missed, and I was I didn't notify you in time.
Right.
But there were some questions. I couldn't even ask a question as a member of the public. Is that now?
We will, yeah,
superseded?
when we poll for attendance, it will not be to post your location. You can participate from wherever you are. I will give an example of if the vote does pass shortly. I think we have SRC members who are at non-notice locations right now, who we will be able to bring over and participate.
Okay, so this committee it doesn't matter what the governing board did at their last meeting then, right? Because they approved this, right?
I would just say it is contingent on the governing board renewing the authorization for the eligible subsidiary bodies to have this video conferencing option. So
didn't the governing board approve this at their
they did,
meeting?
and they need to renew it at the 6-month mark. So they'll renew it again in November, we would hope, and across the board to enable it across as many committees as possible. I think that would be staff's recommendation, but it's also in their ability to narrow it down or put more conditions on it. So as of now, if it's approved today, it is kind of an indefinite benefit, and you will just always have to count on the sort of enabling governing board authorization at the time of any future meeting.
All right, thank you.
All right. Ruby, did you still have a question?
I missed a bit of that governing board discussion. What's the driver for this change? If you could just educate me in a couple sentences.
I think there is an aspect of liberalizing the Brown Act a little bit, especially with these eligible subsidiary bodies that do not have elected officials on them. because of the hurdle that was spoken of. You need to list your location, make it public, post the agenda, comply with Americans with Disabilities Act for those folks who want to come and comment. So this could ostensibly make things a little more efficient and streamlined. There is maybe a bit of a misnomer calling it a teleconferencing bill when it is more like modern video conferencing as we're used to. But I think that was the concept.
Let's go in order, Wayne and then Mosin.
Do we just show up or do we still have to notice you so many hours or days in advance that we're opting for that?
We will still go through our polling procedures. There will not be the legal requirement to put your location on the agenda. I think for logistical reasons, we would like to know if you're attending or participating remotely. But it gives you a little more flexibility as far as where that location will be. And you can still participate at a non-noticed location.
I wasn't asking about the location, I was asking about the timing. Can we just show up remotely if we decide like an hour before this meeting? Is that what the intent is?
It would allow for that. We would like to know your intent, but if circumstances change for you, you would still be able to participate. Yep. Mosin?
Yeah, and it's not related to this new legislation, but can you remind me how the members of this committee were elected, appointed, decided, especially the non-elected members?
Actually, Bahari, you want to get in, touch on that? Because it does involve the BACT SRC charter and the selection by the executive officer.
Now, for the BACT SRC members, as long as they meet the criteria of being in the air quality industry or part of the governmental agencies or schools. So we have five different categories. And then we will look at their background. It needs to be approved by the DO. And then after that, if we have any opening in that category, then we can include it in our SRC list.
Right, and maybe just a quick follow-up. What's the reason that just San Diego and Santa Barbara are on this BACT SRC committee, not any other district?
In the charter, we have assigned numbers to the different categories that Bahari listed. So they have changed over the years. We used to have Bay Area. So there, I don't want to call it a rotation, but when someone comes to an end or can no longer serve when we look for a replacement, we do reach out to other air districts.
Okay, so since I'm retiring, do I need to provide you with a different representative from San Diego APCD to sit on this committee?
We were just discussing that. I think, in the next month or so, we'll talk about next steps on that and getting someone into place.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other?
Can I just follow up on that?
Yeah.
The charter says 4 members regulated industry, 3 from trade association, 5 from other government agencies. So that's where, San Diego would be there.
Yeah.
3 from academic institution and 4 members in air quality practitioners. So that's in the charter. So that's where you come in.
All right. Any other task force questions? Make sure we have none online. Okay, before I ask for a motion and go to a vote, do want to open it up to public comment. Do we have any attendees that would like to comment on this? I do see a raised hand. However, it is one of our SRC members. After this vote, if it is approved, you will be able to participate. At this time. We cannot call on you right now. So apologies, Anusha. Thank you. You lowered your hand. All right.
I had a question. This is Paul from CARB.
Go ahead, Paul.
The clarification. So with this, if approved, I wouldn't need to open up a location here at the CARB headquarters for the public? Is that,
That is correct. I think it still allows the possibility if we did want to make a remote location available for the public, if there was interest, we could go, through those motions, since you are with CARB. However, it would not be a requirement for you to participate.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. With that, I will close public comment. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
All right, Mosin, second.
Second.
Ramin, a second. All right, let's go to the vote, please. Tina?
I want to note that Rita Loof also arrived here. So I'm going to call out your name and you can tell me if you vote yes or no. Nidia Trejo,
Yes.
Paul Moranian,
Yes.
Mosin Nazemi,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
Bariza Nizawa,
Yes.
Bang Feng,
Yes.
Rhonda Abu Shaban, Kendra Jukes,
Yes.
Deanna Frund,
Yes.
Bill Lamar,
Lamar, yes.
Rita Loof,
Abstain.
Ramin Ross,
Yes.
Wayne Miller, Jackson Zhang. Yeah. And Carl Laney.
Yes.
So we have 14 yeses, 1 abstain.
All right, the motion passes. If we could please bring over Anusha and Judy York. And they'll be able to participate. All right, thank you for that. Again, do want to reiterate, we will be here. We do appreciate your presence, but do want to make it more flexible for you for participation. So with that, we will jump into our regularly scheduled program for the BACT guidelines. We'll be handing it over to Bahare.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Before we begin discussing BACT guidelines update and determination, I'd like to briefly revisit the mission and role of the BACT Scientific Review Committee meetings. So let me see. Sorry, okay. I have a problem with clicker, sorry. So for this round, we will go over the role of briefly the role of the BACT Scientific Review Committee and also the update process for the BACT guidelines. And then we will go through some of the administrative changes that we applied for the policy and procedure sections. And then we will give you some updates to the changes to Part D for non-major polluting facility BACT determinations, following up with the major polluting facilities, and then eventually the next steps in the process, and then we will open it to the public comments. This slide actually is kind of the Scientific Review Committee's purpose and how they pretty much, you guys can assist and advise South Coast AQMD staff in the development of the BACT guidelines, as well as the determination through the clear, consistent, and technically sound public process. Through this committee, stakeholders provide us with technical input as well as they can share the industry perspectives. And also there's some opportunity to discuss about emerging technologies and any more stringent emission limits compared to the prior South Coast Air Quality Management District BACT requirements, and also any consideration regarding the implementation of the BACT guidelines. So by that, all of those can help us to come up with a more predictable BACT determination process. When it comes to the role of the BACT Scientific Review Committee, I wanted to remind that the committee serves in an advisory role. And the discussion and feedback we received from you through this process help inform the AQM South Coast staff evaluation and also the future guideline development. And then through the SRC process, stakeholders share their technical knowledge and also if any consideration and feedback on proposed BACT guidelines you may have. And the committee also helps encourage discussion on emerging technologies and also to make sure that we are in alignment with or advising us on alignment of the BACT guidelines with local, state, and federal requirements. And also member may provide written or verbal comments through the process to the staff. I also want to clarify that the SRC process is intended to support future BACT guideline development and staff evaluations. So past permitting actions and also previously issued determinations are already finalized and not changed through the BACT SRC process. Advancement in control technologies are one of the key drivers for periodic updates to the BACT guidelines. This slide provides the side-by-side comparison of the process for major versus non-major polluting facilities. As you can see in this flow chart, our public process includes notifying the public and BACT SRC. And in establishing the layer or also BACT, and prior to updating the BACT guidelines, we will go through a few steps. So on the left-hand side, when you look at the process for in establishing major polluting facility layer, for the permits has been issued by South Coast, we will provide standing status reports to stationary source as well as the governing board. But when it comes to the non-major polluting facilities, minor sources, as well as to make BACT more stringent than current layer, we will provide a report to the stationary source, and then we will present it to the governing board for approval at a public hearing. For these cases, we also need to do the cost effectiveness. And as you can see, for all of them, we will notify the BACT SRC and public before we update the BACT guidelines with new listing.
Bahar, are you taking questions as we go, or do we wait until the end?
Good question, Ria. Yes, we are going to have a separate slides after each agenda item, and we will pause there and we will take the questions. Thank you for asking. Okay, by that, I will begin with a brief overview of the proposed changes and updates included in today's agenda. So we revisited certain sections of the BACT guidelines, including administrative changes to improve clarity and flow so that BACT guidelines read more smoothly. And again, I wanted to reiterate that the copy of the BACT guidelines update and determinations is on the table over there. So there are two different packs. And also if you go to our AQMD website in the BACT docket, you can download all of those information or documents. We updated maximum cost effectiveness criteria under Part C of the BACT guidelines based on Marshall and Swift cost index to reflect about 10.6% increase from the third quarter of 2023, and it is listed in the guideline. It is on page 38. If you have a copy, you can look at the page 38. It has the changes. And also, those control costs are established back in 1995 BACT methodology report. And as you know, we adjust them quarterly to reflect the Marshall and Swift cost index. By that, I'm going to hand it over to Jason to open it for discussion and public comments.
Okay. Open it up to task force discussion. I believe Rita had a question. Go ahead, Rita.
Yes, thank you. I had a question on Chapter 5, review of staff BACT determinations on page 17 of the document. There's new language about the BACT SRC charter, and there's a footnote about the charter, the most current charter being February of 2019. And I was wondering, what process does staff follow for amending the charter, and who amends the charter? Is that the governing board? Is it a public process? How does that work?
The charter also is, since it is part of our BACT process, so the very last one, it went back to 2019 to the governing board. So it went through the public review and then eventually to the stationary source and to the governing board. And as I recall, and it has been there for a while, it was like some minor revision regarding the process in terms of when to take it to the stationary source before take it to the governing board.
But typically, we do discuss it amongst the task force, any changes, and then ultimately approval through the governing board, since it is part of the BACT guidelines.
Okay, and is that the same charter followed by the other committees like the AQMP and the Local Government Small Business Advisory Committee, or is this a charter specific to BACT? Specific
to the scientific review committee meeting or task review committee. It was the document that Bosco, I apologize, you missed it, but we were referencing it earlier in the meeting, and it is made available on the BACT website at aqmd.gov.
Okay, yeah, I see the link there. Thank you.
Any other task force questions on this item?
I also wanted to clarify on that this charter has been there. We are not going to change anything in the charter. The only thing we changed here, again, as I said, is administrative changes. We added the link, hyperlink to that to make it easier because it is already on the website, but sometimes it could be difficult to locate it. So we wanted to make sure it is also part of the guideline, the hyperlink.
All right, seeing no other task force questions, wanted to open up to public comment. Do we have any public commenters in person or on Zoom that wish to comment? Raise your hand. One hand. Would a number ending in 738? Go ahead as soon as you're unmuted. Go ahead and state your name.
Yes. My name is Harvey Eder, E-D-E-R, Echo David, Echo Roger. I'm the founder director of Public Solar Power Coalition. And the representatives, I had seen no one from solar renewables. We've got the fossil fuel industry, etc. Their distributors, the utility companies. There's nobody here talking for solar renewables, and it's pretty outrageous. Okay, I want that in the record, and we're open to participate, but there's a whole lot of other folks. All right, this is, and by the way, the agenda was not put up online, so it's all illegal. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment, Harvey. I don't see any other hands raised. So we'll move on to the next item. And if we've had a change in presenter. Okay, so we'll start with the next item.
Sure. The next section covers the proposed updates to Part D non-major polluting facilities. Okay. This is a new proposed category in the minor source BACT guidelines for linear generator, and it is fired only on natural gas. I mean, the determination we are going to present, and we presented in our scoping meeting back in October too. So the emission limits listed in the table here were proposed based on currently permitted levels, as well as Rule 11 10.3 emission requirements. And as you see, NOx is at 2.5, CO at 12, and VOC at 12 ppm, corrected at 3% oxygen level. The linear generator is a flameless power generation technology that operates without any after treatment, such as selective catalytic reduction to control NOx emissions. And this category, as you can see on the flow chart at the very, very end, it is actually permitted and commercially available in the US. And it represents a new category of minor source equipment with no existing baseline or more stringent control technology available. Therefore, there is no requirement for cost effectiveness analysis. And the technology also demonstrated working reliably over more than 1 year. And I need to correct here the 6 months you can see down below, it refers to the major sources. Actually, it's supposed to be more than 1 year. So this permit has been in operation for more than 1 year. And the sources also shows that it has been in compliance with the proposed limits. Therefore, it can consider also as achieving practice in addition to be as part of the requirements of the rule. On August 4th, 2023, Rule 1153.1 was amended to regulate NOx and CO emissions from commercial food ovens with a primary focus on NOx reduction. To align with the updated rule, changes were proposed to the BACT guidelines for various burners type. And another update is for the storage tank. So on August 4th, 2023, Rule 463 was amended to actually update the efficiency of the vapor recovery system for the storage tanks, fixed roof storage tanks, from 95% to 98% and greater. So we updated the guideline to be consistent with the current requirements of the rule. With that, I'm going to hand it over Jason to lead the discussion.
All right. Thank you very much, Bahare. We will open up this item for a task force discussion. Any questions? Carl, and then Wayne will be after that.
Mine is not a technical question. I'm curious though, in some cases, you will refer to a rule compliance as BACT. In other cases like these today, we have applicable rules and you're inserting the concentration.
Sorry, Carl, can you talk to the mic? So for this.
So I'm just curious how you differentiate. In some cases, historically, well, I shouldn't say historically, but we started the process of just referencing rule compliance as BACT when we had 1100 series rule that applied. And now that I'm seeing here, you are reverting back to actually listing concentrations. What's the reasoning for that?
Do you want to touch on? Go ahead.
Thank you for your question, Carr. We have three different pathway when we establish BACT. So you're right. So there are different, could be, I mean, depends on the cases. For some cases, if we can have we have a rule, so we can refer to the SIP approved rule as a requirement for the BACT. Or the other option, if it is achieved in practice, and sorry, Bettina, can you go back to the flow chart? So we included the criteria for achieving practice in the new slides, hopefully to help to clarify that. So when a category is achieved in practice under linear generator. So when it is achieved in practice would be the second pathway that we can actually do our BACT determination based on that. So achieving practice has to be permitted at the district and also commercially available in the US, also reliable. It means that it should be at least one manufacturer that in the US that it can provide and guarantee that type of technology, and also being able to effectively work over 6 months if it is major sources, or more than 1 year if it is minor sources. And when also we wanted to make sure it is effective. So we show that effectiveness based on the source test or SEMS data, it depends. And so this is the second pathway. And then the third one, if it is a technologically feasible option and cost effective. So it means that, you know, there are like emerging technology that they are coming to the market, and sometimes even the applicant, they are volunteered to do that, to have a cleaner technology. So that one also, this is another pathway we will look to establish BACT, but for that case, we also need to do the cost effectiveness. While when it comes to achieving practice, it is not required for major source. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it was a discussion we did have as well, and we thought it might come up, but, and then I'd say in general, we find the listings with the rule reference tend to provide a little bit more flexibility than sometimes a specific limit. If there is, I'm not talking so much in this one, but if there are varying cases in the rule, different compliance pathways. So that's, this proposal is citing the rule. All right, thank you. Wayne.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with 111003, but once the back limits are set, does these units don't have SEMS? So is there any provision for, I don't know if it's 6 months, annual, every 5-year type of check that these emission values are holding?
Yes, so 1110.3 is specifically for natural gas-fired linear generators. There is source test requirements in that. Would also be, you know, beginning of a permit to construct, but there is different timelines because or allowed timelines due to some facilities have several of these linear generators on site, so they can be grouped differently for source testing. Actually, I believe we have our rule writer with us today, don't we?
So it's annually is what you're saying?
It could be annually, but for sources with multiple linear generators, they can be at different source test frequencies that are further out. However, if a linear generator were to fail one of those, I believe there is a provision where they do have to do additional testing for other linear generators.
Thank you.
All right. Any other task force member questions on this section? All right, we'll open it up to public comment. We will be putting in a 3-minute timer for public comment. Make sure we're still moving along in our agenda. So please utilize the 3 minutes. Please raise your hand if you have public comment. Seeing none. Oh, we do have one more task force member discussion before we move on.
Yeah, sorry, I missed my opportunity, but do you know if the recent published guidelines from US EPA on data center permitting has any, I guess, precedence over these local requirements? I don't think so, but I just want to make sure that that's not going to be interfering with what we are doing here.
To my knowledge, I haven't seen that. Something to stay aware of. But yeah, we've been keeping with our local requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. We'll go back, open up public comment if anybody else has a public comment on this agenda item. All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving along. Agenda item number 4, layer back determination for major polluting facilities. Bettina will be leading this discussion. Bettina, go ahead.
For our layer back listings, we have 2 sections that we're updating. Section 3, which is other technologies, and Section 1, which is the South Coast AQMD layer back determinations. In the Section 3, there's a boiler and a digester gas conditioning and upgrading system. And Section 1, we have lithographic printing, linear generator, a sulfur control system, and a flare that's landfill gas fired. So the boiler in other technology section, this is an emerging technology case. The construction for this boiler is still in process. There's 2 boilers. They're both rated at 520 million BTU per hour, and they both have low NOx burners. They're equipped with selective catalytic reduction systems, and they're fired on refinery gas, natural gas, and process gas. For these boilers, the permit to construct limits for NOx is 2.5 ppm for the 30-day average and 3 ppm for the 24-hour average. For carbon monoxide, 27 ppm for the 30-day average and 35 ppm for the 24-hour average. And for ammonia, there's a 5 ppm 1-hour average limit. Now, these emission standards are not considered achieved in practice yet because they have not been demonstrated. These emissions might be adjusted once the source test results and other operational experience is recognized. So it's important to note that these emission standards cannot yet be specified as BACT in new source permits until they're demonstrated. And on the bottom of the slide, you'll see a checklist. This equipment is permitted by the South Coast AQMD. It's commercially available. The reliability and effectiveness we are waiting to see. And so that's why this is an emerging technology case. The digester gas biogas conditioning and upgrading system, also in other technologies, emerging technology case. Also, the construction is in process. The permit to construct was issued in November of 2025. And this system is going to be conditioning and upgrading biogas to transform the raw biogas into renewable natural gas. It has hydrogen sulfide and VOC removal vessels, and it has tail gas treatment for managing downstream process emissions. For this equipment, the permit to construct limit for hydrogen sulfide is 2 ppm. This is an air pollution control technique that works by removing sulfur from the system before it goes into whatever use it's going to have. And for this, you can see it's permitted by South Coast AQMD. It's commercially available. The reliability and effectiveness, still waiting to see. So that's why this is an emerging technology. Oops. Lithographic printing, non-heat set sheet fed. This layer back determination is a new listing. It's based on an achieved in practice case that was permitted in March of 2021. It's a sheet fed lithographic printing. It uses 170 kilowatt rated ultraviolet dryer and 175 kilowatt rated infrared dryer. For this equipment, it uses low VOC fountain solution low VOC blanket and roller wash, and UV curable or oil-based inks. It also complies with Rule 1130 and Rule 1171. This type of equipment has been available in the market since the year 2000. And with this listing, we're updating the BACT guidelines with an additional determination to recognize the non-heat set sheet fed lithographic printing and to reflect the permitted UV sheet fed category. So you can see that this equipment is permitted by South Coast AQMD. It's commercially available. It's reliable. It's been in operation for quite a while, longer than 6 months. It's shown to be effective, and that is why it is achieved in practice. So since our last BACT meeting, or in the last BACT meeting, we received some comments and we have some responses. We'll go over those. Comment: the proposed BACT listing for non-heat set lithographic printing identifies UV curing, but does not explicitly include electron beam or light emitting diode curing, which use the same low VOC materials. The response: this proposed listing for non-heat set lithographic printing is a layer determination, which is equipment specific, and the energy curable portion currently applies only to UV curing. The South Coast AQMD classifies both the UV lamps and the UV LEDs as UV dryers and does not distinguish between these two sources of ultraviolet radiation during the permitting process. Comment: although staff indicated the listing is intended to be technologically neutral, clarifying that EB and LED are also compliant would provide regulatory certainty and encourage broader adoption of cleaner technologies. Response: EB and visible light LED curing will be considered in future determinations as more data becomes available. The SRC and the public may consider examples that are achieved in practice for future updates, but it's important to note that technologies that are listed for major sources are also applicable to, technologies listed for non-major sources are also applicable to major sources. So we have a non-emergency generator, linear generator that is fired on natural gas. It is a layer back determination from the South Coast AQMD, and this is an updated listing. This is an achieved in practice case. You might remember it from the minor, non-major section, linear generator. This one is achieved in practice, permitted to operate since April 2024, 240 kilowatt electric module consisting of two identical 120 kilowatt electric linear generator cores, and the exhaust is vented to the oxidation catalyst. The permitted limits for this equipment for NOx is 2.5 ppm, for carbon monoxide 12 ppm, and for VOC is 10 ppm. And you can see from the source test results there that this equipment did meet all of those limits. And as Bahari talked about, basically the rule limit changed for the VOC, and that's why we're making this listing update. So this equipment is permitted by the South Coast AQMD. It's commercially available. It's reliable and been in operation for over 6 months. It's effective based on the source tests, and so that's why it is considered achieved in practice. Some comments from the linear generator. VOC comment: VOC and possibly CO emissions from linear generators can vary by fuel type. And since the data is based on pipeline quality natural gas, this listing should note this and indicate the layer back emission limits may require case-by-case adjustments for other fuels like landfill gas or biogas. The response: staff acknowledges that emissions may vary depending on fuel composition. Since this layer back determination applies specifically to linear generators firing solely on natural gas as defined under Rule 1110.3, clarification will be provided, and the layer back for other fuel types may be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Comment: VOC emissions measured during testing with pipeline quality natural gas ranged from 3 to 11 ppm across the generator cores. This variability raises concerns about whether the proposed 10 ppm limit can be consistently met. Staff should review the test reports to evaluate the variability and confirm achievability of the limit. The response? The staff review of the source test data indicated that the VOC emissions fall within the expected range. Some variability does exist due to differences in core design, tuning, and maintenance, and all tested cores met the VOC limit of 10 ppm when using the pipeline quality natural gas. This limit is already established in Rule 1110.3, and several permitted linear generators have demonstrated compliance with this limit. And for this South Coast AQMD layer back determination, we have 2 listings for sulfur control systems that are for landfill gas prior to the landfill gas combustion, and these are both new listings. Rule 431.1 limits sulfur compounds in fuels to reduce sulfur oxides emissions. Hydrogen sulfide in landfill gas leads to SOx formation during combustion. And SOx is a criteria pollutant. And South Coast AQMD regulates sources of these criteria pollutants, including precursors to protect public health and the environment. Combustion produces SOx, and to reduce the SOx in the combustion exhaust, the landfill gas is treated to reduce the hydrogen sulfide. The fixed bed pressure vessels contain granular H2S reactant media, which chemically reacts with the landfill gas and removes the H2S from the treated gas stream. The landfill gas for these 2 sulfur control listings is from an active landfill that processes municipal waste. For monitoring requirements, we have 2 options. First, we can measure the fuel gas content prior to combustion, the fuel gas sulfur content prior to combustion, or the second option, we can measure the SOx emissions after combustion. So the first new listing for sulfur control prior to landfill gas combustion is an achieved in practice case. It's been in operation since 2018. This is a landfill gas treatment system with a design capacity of 9,000 standard cubic feet per minute. It consists of 5 parallel fixed bed pressure vessels, and they each contain granular media, which reduces the total sulfur in the landfill gas prior to combustion. The permitted layer limits for hydrogen sulfide, the daily average is 85 ppm, the monthly average is 60 ppm. Using the facility's continuous fuel gas monitoring system between February and September 24th, we saw the maximum concentration for the daily average of hydrogen sulfide was 69 ppm, and the monthly average was 59 ppm. Also important to note that during 2024, the total reduced sulfur from this landfill in the untreated landfill gas ranged from 127 ppm to 181 ppm, and the H2S from the untreated landfill gas ranged from 113 ppm to 160 ppm. And this equipment is permitted by the South Coast AQMD. It is commercially available. It's reliable for over 6 months. It's effective based on the continuous fuel gas monitoring system data, and therefore it is achieved in practice. The second listing we have for this sulfur control system prior to landfill gas combustion category is also an achieved in practice case. It has been in operation since June 2023. It's a landfill gas treatment system with a design capacity of 4,000 standard cubic feet per minute and consists of 2 fixed bed pressure vessels in series, each containing the granular media, which reduced the total sulfur in the landfill gas stream prior to combustion. For this system, the layer limits are the same on the permit, 85 ppm for the daily average for hydrogen sulfide, and 60 ppm for the monthly average. And based on source test results, one in February of 2024, there was 27 ppm of H2S, and one in December of 2024, 13.5 ppm of H2S. And this system is associated with the same landfill as the previous system I talked about. So in 2024, the untreated landfill gas hydrogen or total reduced sulfur ranged from 127 ppm to 181 ppm, and the H2S from that untreated landfill gas ranged from 113 ppm to 160 ppm. You might be surprised, but we did really receive some comments on these systems as well. First comment, concern that applying the requirement of sulfur control technology as back to all landfill gas combustion sources may not be universally applicable. And the response, yes, variability in landfill gas sulfur content is recognized. However, this requirement establishes a consistent evaluation framework. Site-specific conditions and available data are considered during the case-by-case layer back determination process. Comment. Combustion equipment differences, for example, engines versus boilers versus flares, may limit applicability. In response, this standard establishes a uniform sulfur limit for treated landfill gas prior to combustion to control the downstream SOx emissions. Comment. The layer determination may not meet technology transfer criteria under the South Coast AQMD BACT guidelines, Part A. Response. Compliance with similar sulfur levels has been achieved in practice, and this supports an achieved in practice basis rather than technology transfer. Comment. Potential for high costs and unintended impacts, for example, discouraging landfill gas use or delaying flare upgrades. So for major sources, layer and back determinations are based on the most stringent emission limits achieved in practice and do not routinely consider cost. The next listing, layer back determination new listing, is for a landfill gas fired flare. This is an achieved in practice case, and it has been permitted to operate since February 2021. It is an enclosed 167 million BTU per hour ultra low emissions flare with an automatic air damper, propane pilot, and a 250 horsepower combustion air blower. This equipment has a flow meter and a continuous temperature indicator or recorder. The flare capacity is 5,500 standard cubic feet per minute. The permitted layer limits for VOC is 0.006 pounds per million BTU. And for PM10 as PM is 5 pounds per million standard cubic feet. And you can see the source test results range from 2021 to 25. Both the VOC and the PM10 are within or are below the permitted layer limits. This flare does maintain a temperature above 1400 degrees Fahrenheit during the flare operation. And as you can see, it is permitted by the South Coast AQMD, it's commercially available, it's reliable, it's been in operation for over 6 months, it's effective based on the source tests, and that's why this listing is considered achieved in practice. We also have some comments for this flare. I think there's a few more for this one, so bear with me. Comment. A concern regarding setting a fixed minimum operating temperature in the layer back determination, as the newer technologies may achieve VOC destruction at lower temperatures. Per the layer back guidelines, Part A, staff may consider equipment and/or site-specific factors during permitting, including evaluation of minimum operating temperature limits and may establish a new layer determination for landfill gas flares if sufficient supporting data is provided. Comment. Recommend using a default temperature with flexibility for alternative approaches supported by data, along with clear monitoring and compliance requirements. Response. Applicants may propose alternative approaches that achieve equivalent emission reductions as part of the permitting process and can be evaluated as part of the case-by-case evaluation. Comment. PM emissions vary significantly, up to 31 pounds per million standard cubic foot, due to factors beyond operator control. Strict PM limits could cause unnecessary violations. Response. Under Part A of the LARE-BACT guidelines, staff may consider process, equipment, and site-specific factors, as well as alternative approaches that achieve equivalent emission reductions. Comment. Source testing demonstrates flare VOC emissions exceeded limits in 43% of tests, with emissions up to 0.0234 pounds per million BTU, indicating the proposed VOC limit may not be reliably achieved and may not qualify as achieved in practice. South Coast AQMD stated that results associated with facilities with unresolved or unspecified violations will not be used for BACT determinations. Response. To clarify the achieved in practice basis used in our analysis, the LARE-BACT determination form provided in this round includes the facility name, the flare description, the permit number, and the summary of the source test results to clearly identify the specific case referenced, which is a different data set than the one cited in the comment. Comment. Request the release of VOC and PM source test data from 2011 to present to support technical review prior to updating the BACT guidelines. Response. The BACT SRC's purpose is not to comment on past permitting decisions. However, the source test reports may be obtained through a public records request, and the staff can assist with identifying responsive records and narrowing the scope of requests as needed. And now we find that it's time for the SRC discussion and public comment.
All right, thank you very much, Bettina. Do you want to open it up for task force? I have quite a few listings we're presenting today, so I want to give everyone a chance to ask their questions. Starting left to right, we'll start with Ramin. Go ahead.
Jason, I'm sorry to interrupt. We had a correction on one or clarification on one of the slides that we wanted to.
Yeah, so sorry, I just wanted to clarify that on this slide, the two, the information are correct, but the way it has been shown may cause some confusion. We rely on the two source test results that we had, as you see back in February and also December. So one of them is 27, the other 13.5. Both of them, they are in compliance with the monthly and daily average. But the way the table shows, it brings this, probably you can think that 27 is the source test comparing to 85 or 13.5 versus 60. So 85 and 60 applies to both of those cases. So pretty much the two numbers, they're in compliance with both those numbers.
All right, thank you for the clarification. We will go back to Ramin.
Thank you. Had a couple of questions on slide 21 dealing with the boiler. So let me know how you want to handle it, rotate. But a couple of questions about the setup, then a couple of questions about your team's thoughts. So for this, just to clarify, do each of the boilers have two SCRs, or is it one SCR for each boiler?
There is one SCR for each boiler, so total of two SCRs.
And then are the boilers in parallel or in series?
I leave it to Bhaskar. As I remember during the site visit, they were in parallel. But please correct me, Bhaskar.
No, they're in series.
Completely.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, these are completely independent, two separate boilers.
Okay, thank you. And then just as far as your team setup, when you're thinking about the category, are you assuming whatever BACT comes from this would apply to greater than 500 million BTU boilers, or would you think that this would kind of go down to boilers as small as like 100? What are your thoughts on sort of the minimum threshold there?
It would probably apply to other boilers also, not just 500. I mean, it's the technology really, SCR, which can get you down to the 2.5 ppm, 3 ppm.
Okay, that's
So
helpful.
yeah, even if it's a smaller boiler, that technology should be able to get you there.
Okay, I'll circle back and see if there's additional thoughts on that. And then lastly, the pollutants we're looking at, NOx, CO, ammonia, were others considered as well? I know it's still under construction. You have to see what's demonstrated. Just trying to get ahead of if you were thinking like PM or SOx or anything else.
Well, yeah, according to our rules, that rule 404, 407, 409, all those limits are there for PM, VOC. The limits are there, but those are rule limits. This are the lower limit, and this is the new BACT that we are establishing.
Okay, so there's rule limits for the other ones
other
not
limits
listed.
are also there. The
Got it.
boilers are subject to other limits also.
Okay.
And these boilers have already started up in November. They are currently operating.
Okay.
They have SIMs. The SIMs have been certified, and they are meeting this limit. At least one of the boiler is meeting this limit.
Thank you.
I do want to identify, this is going to come up in our later slides, but we will be going to a public comment period for all these listings. So just want to put that out there as you're thinking about their comments or your comments. And we do encourage you to provide those written comments as we move forward. I'm going to try something a little bit different since we presented multiple listings, is for those that have your placards up. Does anyone have any question on the boilers specifically? And I'll take those first. Mohsen, go ahead.
Sure, it's a quick one. I was just wondering, what's the purpose of a 30-day average BACT limit? I know for purposes of BACT, we do look at daily or hourly and annual for cost effectiveness calculations, but 30-day average seems to maybe more related to offsets, but is it really under BACT or is that a limit under offsets?
It's a BACT limit. These are reclaimed sources, so for NOx emissions, we didn't really need any offsets. And these two boilers replaced 8 old combustion units. So overall, there was a dramatic reduction in NOx emissions from the facility when they installed these two boilers. Because of the variation in the process, in the refinery gas that they use, it's very difficult for them to meet an hourly limit. And that's why, after extensive dialogue with the refinery, we settled on this daily averages for these boilers. And we wanted to push lower, but on a daily basis, again, there is, because of all the fluctuations, these are large boilers. These are some of the largest boilers in any of the refineries. So even on a daily basis, it's difficult to maintain and the fluctuations. And that's why we have a 30-day limit, which is lower than the daily limit. We try to push the limit as low as we can.
Okay, just curious because the NAC standards are also 1 hour, 24-hour or annual, not 30 days. So, but these are just trying to just lower their emissions.
Right. I mean, they will still be subject to all those other standards. But yeah, as far as BACT is concerned, it's very difficult to achieve a 1 hour average for these boilers.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other boiler? David, go ahead.
Yeah, just on the 30-day average, just to continue that discussion a little bit more. That seems to me at least to imply that SEMS would be needed to verify compliance with a 30-day average, which makes sense for very large boilers like these ones over 500 million BTU per hour. But if we're thinking about, or if you're thinking about bringing these limits down to much smaller boilers that otherwise wouldn't require SEMS for compliance, it could be a significant challenge, cost, add-on for a
Understood. I
facility.
mean, under these are reclaim sources. Any source above 40 million, will require SIMS anyway under 1109.1 and under reclaim. So, yeah, these have NOx SIMS, CO SIMS, and ammonia SIMS.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense, and I agree with that for sure. Just going back to the other question earlier about if these limits were brought down for much smaller size units, just thinking about that.
Understood. And in number 1109.1 rule, that is covered very well, where the limits are based on 24 hours, but for boilers that don't have SIMS, there is a whole section of how you source test those boilers and show compliance with the limits in the rule.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Very important point on the compliance determination. Any other boiler comments before I keep moving down the table? All right, we'll move down, going left to right. Bill Lamar.
Thank you. I'm going back to slide 24 for the lithographic printing. Since this has been permitted by the district for the last 5 years, does this printer have a name? And do we know who it is?
Foster Printing Company.
Who?
Foster Printing Company.
Foster?
Yeah, it will be on the BACT determination form. I believe the packets are available over there, but a form is filled out for each of these listings that identifies the facility, permit number, emission limits, how
So
compliance
it's in
is
here
determined.
then.
It is in that packet. It's also available online for those that are participating online.
And do we know, is this a major or non-majors facility?
This section is all for layer listings. So I believe they're all at major sources, correct?
That's correct. It is listed under major sources, but our source, the achieving practice, is a minor source. Since we didn't have cost data, we only were able to list it under major source
You
determination.
don't have cost data.
We don't have it. And I believe, thanks, Rita, you mentioned the name of the facility, but the mic was off. So it is the Foster Printing, as you mentioned, the facility, and it is in the back form.
Okay, so that answers my question. It is a major source, but you have it listed under non-major because.
Sorry, opposite. It is a minor source. We listed in major source determination guideline.
So it's a smaller facility.
It is a smaller facility, yeah.
Okay. And then, being commercially available has nothing to do with affordability. Do we know how much this setup here cost? I mean, is it cost prohibitive? Are they the only ones that in your jurisdiction that are using it, or are there others?
We do have other cases. We try to use not exactly the most recent, but one of the most recent one when we got the comments to list it. So we have multiple of those right now has been permitted. So this is not just one facility.
So there's more than just Foster.
This is more than one facility that use UV
I
for
see.
this type of operation.
Yeah, we do want to recognize that we're not listing it as for the minor source because we do not have the cost data where we are required to ensure it's cost effective
Right.
for minor sources. So I just want to make this clear. This is for although at a minor source, effective for the major sources.
And that's the only reason is you just don't have the data then.
Correct. That is the limiting factor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll keep with the same theme. Does anyone have, I had a feeling you did, any questions on this listing? Go first up, Rita, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that clarification about the minor versus major. I kind of knew that in the back of my mind, but I wasn't too clear. So thank you for clarifying that. And this equipment was started up in 2020 in the middle of COVID. So the fact that this company has been in operation for over 5 years under those circumstances is a success story, a business success story, the kind of story we like to hear. And it speaks to the viability of the equipment. I had a couple of questions because I see the VOC content listed for the blanket and roller wash, but I don't see it for the actual UV ink. Were you guys able to get a VOC content of the UV ink for this facility?
In the permit and in the rule, they list just the fountain solution and the blanket and roller wash. So we don't have the opportunity to add it to the BACT determination if it's not already in the permit or the rule. So, and if you have more information about the VOC content of the inks, we would definitely want to have it. But the ink, I think, is not the main VOC contributor, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
so, and-
No, I was just wondering because it has to be, obviously you listed as compliant with 1130. So it's
Mhm.
going to be less than 275 grams per liter or 300, but typically we're in the less than 50 gram per liter range. So I was just wondering if you had
Okay,
information on the ink.
no.
Okay, thank you. And then on slide 24, on the last response, and thank you for the clarifications. I think that's really helpful. Where you talk about technologies listed for non-major sources are applicable to major sources, which that makes sense. But can you tell me a little bit more about the context of that? Were you thinking of a specific listing, or was it more of a general comment? Because this one is for a major source, right?
Well, this permit for this facility is a non-major source. And as Jason was saying, the reason that we list it as major is because we don't have the cost information on it. So in order to list it as non-major, which it is a non-major source, but in order to list it as a non-major BACT determination, we do have to have that cost effectiveness data in order to list it that way. So basically, you can list like any non-major source you could look at for a major source determination, right? If you're permitting a major source, you can look at the major source determinations and you can look at the non-major source determinations. But if it's a non-major source, then you have to stick to those non-major ones.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to clear up in my mind because it is a small source. I'll say small so that we don't get confused with the non-major versus major. A smaller source or a minor source. But it is in the major source category. So I was trying to reconcile that statement where you said, if you have non-major sources, then that's also applicable to major sources. Where did that thinking come from?
Well, I think it's based in the mostly just the cost effectiveness, right? Because we are assuming that major sources is a larger facility and the non-major sources are smaller facilities, right? So you have to look at, it's required in the BACT guidelines that we do look at cost effectiveness for the non-major sources, right?
Right.
So any major source could definitely use the non-major source BACT determinations, right, to meet any emission requirements. But the non-major ones, we can't require to use the major source determinations because those are smaller facilities, smaller operations, and we aren't, they aren't required to, or they are required to look at the cost effectiveness.
Right,
It's-
because you
yeah.
have that in the health and safety code.
It's
Right.
achieved
as
in
a requirement.
practice, yeah.
So I guess my question is, was that specific to this particular facility or that was just a general?
Yeah, no, that's true for
Statement.
all determinations. Yeah.
Okay. And then on the difference between electron beam and UV curing on those responses. And I get it, it is a different type of curing mechanism, even though it's basically pretty much the same for purposes of the chemistry and the way the materials react and cross-link. But then on slide 32, you have a response that says applicants may propose alternative approaches that achieve equivalent emission reductions as part of the permitting process and can be evaluated as part of a case-by-case evaluation. So if somebody were to come in with an electron beam, then that's kind of the process that they would follow as well. That would apply to them as well.
Yeah, that permit would be evaluated based on the conditions that are brought with that equipment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments on the UV system before I move on? Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So that I'm clear, you were looking for a place to park this. So you chose major instead of non-major. Does that have any effect on future companies or existing companies that want to upgrade on their permit applications then? I mean, could they, are they, because of this backlisting, would a future source be required to acquire this technology and no other alternative?
No, it would
No.
still be, it's being listed as an example of what's been permitted.
And
in
it's
the
commercially
form, yeah,
available.
commercially available,
if-
checks the boxes
If the
essentially.
user wants
Yeah.
to use
Yes,
that.
yeah.
If
then
there's something
they would-
else, then something else that you've approved would be compliant.
For whatever BACT category that is,
Whatever
or a new BACT
Yeah, okay, thank
class
you.
and category is what we usually look at. Yeah. All right, I think that's it for the UV questions. We'll keep moving down the table. I see Marissa has placard up. Go ahead.
So now I know how you guys have to prepare the comments. I'll be as organized as possible. So whoever taking the meeting minutes, don't go crazy. Okay, so slide 27 through 29. This is the pre-treatment for sulfur control system. So I reviewed the BACT form, and just out of curiosity, do these facilities, the landfill facilities, do they have beneficial use for those landfill gas? That's why they have to treat the H2S, because I'm just out of curiosity, do those facilities now have the beneficial use or plan to have the beneficial use, or previously have one, and that's why they have to have the pre-treatment?
Both both of these listings are coming from the same landfill. And one of the systems does go to engines that produce electricity.
Correct.
And the other system is on one flare. So
Yes.
yes,
Yes, so they both have, but as I understand it, the smaller one, it says going to one flare through, so only a portion for the smaller one, the two vessels, only a portion of the landfill gas go through this system.
yeah, I think that's true for the engines as well, but
Oh.
basically they treat the gas, and then the treated gas mixes back with the landfill gas, and it has to meet the layer limit before it goes into the combustion equipment.
And the combustion equipment in this case, is it flares only?
Well, for one of the listings, it's engines, and for the other, it is a flare. So, and one flare, yeah. There are 6 flares, so 5 were previously there, and then they added one flare, and with that additional flare, they added the sulfur treatment.
And then the one individual flare number 6,
Mhm.
was that, just if you don't know the answer, that's fine, I'm just curious. Is it supposed to be used as sort of like a backup for future beneficial use of sort, where they have to clean the H2S first? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you understand the question?
Yeah. I think we understand
Okay,
the
thank you.
question. It's just a matter of hearing the answer.
Yes, so the flare permit is not specific to its use case of only operation if, the beneficial use project is not operational or whatnot. So it's really based on the flare's combustion of landfill gas solely.
Understand. I'm just out of curiosity as far as why they would have to put a pre-treatment if they were to just burn it in a flare. So that's all. So
Yeah, the pre-treatment is there really to meet the limits, to ensure meeting the sulfur limits.
Understand.
To reduce, yeah.
Right,
SOx
but I think my question is, would that gas that's supposed to go to the flare number 6, would they now, or are they planning on it being used as beneficial use? That's my question.
I think possibly we don't really define that as criteria for the sulfur use case. So it doesn't have to. So if someone came in saying, I'm going to install a landfill gas flare, I don't have a beneficial use project, you would have the same limits because it's based on the technology being achieved in practice with these limits that have been achieved in practice.
So as it stands, I'm assuming there are several more than these 2 examples where they treat the sulfur, the hydrogen sulfide to go to the flare without having to go to the beneficial use, correct? Okay. Is there any way, is there any way we can get some, and I understand getting source test reports are really a pain, it's just a lot of work, but since it's achieved in practice, clearly there's some data available. And I actually believe that, if a treatment system is in place, clearly it will meet that limit. That's not my concern at all. My concern would be requiring it before the flare. That's my biggest concern. Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my next one. Do we move on to the next one, or how do you want to do?
Do you want to address the data, or do we have sources data? Or we can handle it through written comment?
I want to just go over, make sure I understand your question, Marisa. So we already included 2 source test data. Also, it is in the back forms with a little bit more detailed information. I believe that you said you reviewed that.
Right.
What more information are you referring to regarding the test data?
Well, because there are many landfills, and are these the only 2 that, actually, I would say, is this the only one example where they treat the gas before it goes to the flare? I hardly ever see one like that. That's all.
The last meeting that we had, we only presented one case because this is our criteria to show achieve in practice. But that one was the one used to go to the engine. And you brought a good points that whatever, if there's any other combustion sources such as flare or boiler that doesn't need, based on the manufacturer point of view for the engine, for example, to meet those limits. And we have this discussion that this is our requirement 60 and 85. So we started to look and we added one more achieving practice to show that we have other cases that goes to flare. And I believe we have more than just this example, but what we wanted to bring to the BACT SRC and public is something that we really have sourced this data and also has been in operation for a while. So that's why we bring this one to the committee as the achieving practice case.
Okay, understood. I just want to, it just, again, hardly ever see a treatment system before flare. That's all. If this is the only one, I get it. But again, we don't know, or maybe some of us know, they plan to use it for beneficial use in the future. Carl.
Well, for clarification in my own mind, I want to take this one step further. I think we're talking about systems where we are differentiating between a primary flare and an engine or a turbine or what have you. But is there reason to conclude that compliance upstream would also imply compliance at a tail gas flare? Or should we expect it's possible or likely that you would have higher concentrations at the tail gas flare?
So these listings are just for landfill gas combustion. They're not what we in permitting refer to as like regenerative gas combustion, where you're taking tail gas and as part of the fuel and combusting that. So these are really intended well, I should say not intended. These listings are specific to that landfill gas combustion, not tail gas combustion. But, you know, maybe in the future, if we have, once again, data that supports a potential new BACT listing, BACT category for control technology or limits, that may be a future avenue, but that's not currently what's being proposed.
Okay. I'm wondering if, in the meantime, if it does make sense to clarify that. I'm only saying that because in regulatory development and in permitting processes, there seems to be a fair amount of debate about what is and what is not landfill gas in these applications. So
Totally agree. And actually, we're going through that, you know, through other permitting actions right now. So agree with you. Could be a very simple clarification on this one. And, you know, we are looking at those other systems where we understand your point on that. All right. Any other questions on these particular listings before we move on? Raise your hand. Okay. I'll keep moving down. Mohsen. Or did you have,
The next one. I can wait for the.
Yeah, let's finish up
Yes, that's fine.
the gas treatment first.
Oh, okay.
Or
So
wait, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, we'll move
Yeah.
down and we'll come back to it.
actually, I'm
Mohsen?
kind of going back.
All right.
The digester gas, biogas conditioning upgrading systems. I was just wondering, it's that slide 22. The 2 ppm sulfur has H2S. We kind of in San Diego are a little interested in H2S because of Tijuana River. That 2 ppm is listed with double asterisk as imposing it to satisfy the state ambient air quality standard. And maybe I'm missing it, but I thought the state standard was 0.03 ppm at 1 hour, averaged over 1 hour. And I don't know what's the averaging period here. Maybe it's a different averaging period. And there are all kinds of standards for H2S. I mean, there's the permissible exposure limit, 20 ppm 8 hour or 50 ppm at 10 minutes. There is the threshold level value of 1 ppm at 8 hour or short term 5 ppm at 15 minutes. And of course, there's that IDLH, the immediately dangerous level of 100 ppm, which is instantaneous. So the question is there an averaging period here or not? And if there is not, that means it's instantaneous, but it is not consistent with my understanding of the ambient air quality standard for this thing, which is 0.03, I think, ppm.
Do you want the permitting staff to handle in terms of, I believe this is a gas limit versus the ambient air limit at the fence line? If you can explain some more.
Yeah,
of that.
that's exactly correct. So this is the limit for the gas used in the system. I completely agree. It's not the same as an ambient air quality standard, which is at the ambient thresholds. We would consider that like the facility boundary.
So if you model this downwind, maybe it reaches 0.03.
Correct. It's like protective measure to ensure that it's meeting that, but it's not equating the two.
Yeah, and again, this is listed under other technologies right now. We're looking into this, but again, seeing the need of what's coming down the line, other tail or regen flares, things like that. We want to start getting these out there for, to track for this group. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll keep moving down. Gotcha.
Thank you. I have two questions on slide number 31. So first, I was curious about the limits. Are those like daily or monthly average values? And then second, I was also curious about other concerns for NOx emissions when we have like high temperatures. Thank you.
I think these limits are not based on time. I think they're based on volume and BTU.
Right, but I imagine that this value would change over time, like depending on the operation conditions. So are these limits
I see.
basically like for any given moment, this is the maximum?
Yeah,
value?
yeah, I believe that is correct. Yeah, that is the maximum.
I do want to double check into that because there would be a source test measurement to get the
Yeah.
pounds, which was done over some amount of time.
15-minute,
gas.
yeah, 15-minute average.
Okay, well, I
Oh,
think
it's
the
15
temperature
minutes.
was 15-minute average, but
Oh,
we can add that clarification in the listing if it's not
Thank you.
there. I think I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And how about the second question for NOx emissions?
Could you restate that again?
Oh, yeah, so I was curious about NOx emissions. Do you have any like standard for that or any concern of now that you're requiring higher temperature, would that increase NOx emissions?
I think we're focused on the, go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a NOx and also CO requirements based on the permit conditions. So for the NOx, the limit is 0.025 pounds per million BTU, and for CO is 0.06, and it is both in the permit.
sorry, the averaging times for the VOC and the PM are both 1 hour.
Thank you.
Okay. And just for awareness, we do also have a flare rule for NOx under 1118.1.
I also wanted to clarify that the 1400 degrees for our frame of reference is not a higher temperature threshold. That requirement for BACT has been established in our minor source BACT since I believe 1988. So that's been the minimum temperature requirement for a very long time. And now it's just updating the criteria pollutant emission values for these flare equipment.
Thank you.
And just I wanted to add that if anyone is more interested to see the source test data and also averaging time, when you look at the BACT form, section 6 of the BACT forms are including the demonstration of compliance. So under source test performance data, there are more information. Also, we included the source test method in the BACT forms. And regarding the averaging time, as well as the corrected oxygen level, if it applies to any determination, they are all under section 4 of the BACT forms under emission information.
All right, so I think we can focus on the flare. If anybody else has any questions on the flare, try my best to keep these
As organized
comments.
as course
Let's,
possible.
I'll go to, I see Rhonda first, and then we'll come over to you.
Thank you very much. All right. Before we bounce to the flares, just really quick, I wanted to piggyback on the comment that was made by Mr. Nazemi and response by Angela regarding slide 22. So I apologize for having you bounce back and forth, but to take us back to that comment regarding the 2 ppm limit and the reference to the California ambient quality standards. So just to clarify the intent of the 2 ppm, is it to mitigate the odor nuisance, odor prevention? Is that the intent of the 2 ppm limit?
Typically, yes, since it is an odorous compound. That's typically we understand you have to combust gases, but there are odors coming from that compound through the processes, even through the equipment and whatnot. So yeah, yes.
Did you want to continue to touch on the flare, or?
I'll wait to hear what Larissa has to say. And then
All right.
I'll maybe piggyback
Defer
on
to
that.
Marissa.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marissa. You have been.
Thank you very much. First, I want to, on slide 33, it says that because the previous data set was different than the one that's showing now, because the previous data set shows that it's 43% fail that. So at the previous meeting, I think we said that this listing is technology transfer, but we are now considering this as achieved in practice. So if some of the data set that's cited previously didn't really meet that limit. So I'm not sure, I just get some clarification on that. Yeah.
After we presented that, realized that it was a facility that had multiple violation issues ongoing over the years. Probably not the best one to lead as the example. However, there are other facilities that have been maintaining compliance that have been able to achieve the proposed limit, the proposed listing.
But are there violations related to that? Is it related to the actual limits, the flare limits? Because, you know, there's some example in here. I think it's the first one. Don't want to name. They also have violations, but you're using them in a back listing as well.
I would say there is probably multiple maintenance, operational. Yeah, I guess operational considerations
So
on
with,
that one.
okay, with that said, that means that the, you know, there are probably some kind of data that's available that shows that these VOC and PM limits can be met. That means it has to be more than one or two facilities, I understand, correct? There are multiple that you went through to review to make sure that it's achieved in practice.
This is achieved in practice. We have the one we're presenting today. That is the minimum for achieved in practice at a facility is we're listing this permit.
But yes.
And then I also want to go back and address your question of the facilities in violation. It's not related to this. It's more to with sulfur emissions, not the VOC.
Got it.
Yeah.
I just want to make
reaction,
sure.
we'll say.
So like that means that the one that failed cited that we cited in our previous comment, that means they failed the VOC and the PM limit.
I don't have everything handy. I don't know if anybody else does, but I know they're.
Whereas also I wanted to clarify that we presented, I believe, I'm trying to remember, 4 different facilities or maybe 3 facilities with 4 different flares. And all of those that we included, they were in compliance for the VOC and PM.
Got it.
But we didn't include it this round. The reason was that last time because we need one achieve in practice, and so granted that we included even in the back forms, the information are there because it has 1 initial source test and 4 subsequent source tests. So we decided to include that one, which has more source test data based on reliability. But the other 3 cases we presented last time, in addition to that, all of them, they're in compliance in terms of VOC and PM.
So, and I just want to make sure, you know, if we can review that data, because this is for the low NOx flare. It's been around for a while. There's tons of data. And as you know, there's variability as far as VOC and PM from landfills to landfills. And in here, it said that they can be identified on a case-by-case basis. Just out of curiosity, did anyone ever get, was there any approved for a specific case-by-case basis for a different limit of VOC and PM?
Yes, so since we started seeing this limit imposed, like when it first was imposed on a permit, there have been case-by-case circumstances that allowed for not using this limit, using something alternative to that based on the site-specific considerations at a particular landfill to support using something else. So yes, we have done that in the past. And now we have a lot more data of showing how this is achieved in practice. And we would also welcome any other case-by-case considerations for any new proposal at a site.
So even the one that's already been permitted?
If there's case-by-case considerations to be presented, we would welcome that and consider that in our evaluation process. You know,
And you've approved those ones as well in the past?
in the past, yes.
Okay, not just submitted, approved.
Approved, yes.
Thank you. Also, one last, well, not one last thing, but this kind of go back to the pre-treatment system. You know, for many of us landfill operators, the flare is really our last defense for emissions. We have boilers, we have, you know, engines, various things. A lot of time these flares are used as a backup. So by attaching pre-treatment for sulfur, for example, let's say if sulfur were, pre-treatment were to fail, we really have no options, you know, and it becomes sort of like, okay, how do we choose to fail? That's no good options either way. So I think for an emergency equipment like the flare, I'm not sure if requiring a pre-treatment system be attached to it and making it even more complicated make a lot of sense. Just want to throw it out there. It's a backup. It's there for an emergency reason. You know, you're just adding a new failure point to it.
Okay, I do want to bring up in terms of, or in cases of actual emergency, we do have our hearing board process and emergency variances if, you know, that needs to be utilized. So putting that out there in true emergency, if you do need to bypass and fail.
So you're telling me I get to choose which one I should be out of
I'm just
compliance
telling
of?
you, if you are in an emergency, that is the mechanism.
But I'm just saying that
versus
rather than,
permitting and
you know, so by adding that pre-treatment, that's just another point of failure that we probably a lot of us don't need.
go ahead, Carl.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I do think I know in the few cases that I've seen where we are looking at renewable natural gas, pipeline grade gas, when there is a system upset, the diversion occurs. The diversion to take the gas back to that flare that's rarely ever used occurs upstream of the fuel conditioning system. So it's not like you would be treating for sulfur and then diverting it back to that backup flare. All of that diversions prior to any of the systems that we're talking about. Just
okay. And I do want to bring up that that's not all, that's not the only cases we see for the emergency, is we do have flares that are in ongoing operation, flaring
Totally
all the
understand,
time.
but there are for a
Yes,
lot of
yes.
us that
Right.
trying to do the right thing, using beneficial use, using the flare as an emergency,
Yeah.
and we're trying to stay in compliance. This is another added point of pain for us. That's all.
Thank you for the comment. All right, we've had quite a few comments. I'm looking around. Is there any other task force comments on the listings provided before we, not seeing any. All right, what I'll do. Yeah, we're gonna go to public comment on this item. We have two hands raised. First up is a phone number that ends in 740. When the line's unmuted, if you could please identify yourself and your affiliation. We can unmute the call. There we go. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Casey Corliss with Orange County Waste and Recycling. My comment is similar to other folks' comment, that it is extremely onerous and costly to install pre-treatment on a backup flare that primarily operates very sparingly, especially at a site where most of the gas is directed to energy generation. So it would be great if you could differentiate achieved in practice for primary flares versus backup flares. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your comment, Casey. Next up is Harvey Etter. Go ahead, Harvey.
Hello, am I being heard? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
My name's Harvey Etter. I'm the founder director of Public Solar Power Coalition, been around close to 50 years. Okay. Basically, what this talk about secondary failure. Oh, first of all, there's a Sunshot program. We put in the 16 plan 100 exhibits from the Sunshot program. It was modeled after the moonshot. That's how we got to the moon under Kennedy in the 60s. And it was under Obama from 10 to 20, and to make solar cost effective compared to natural gas and coal without any tax benefits, nothing. Okay, we submitted this. It was ignored. Dr. Burke asked for this. Okay, it was not evaluated either from the 16 plan, the 22 plan, or the contingency measures. And we did this dance with Anita Lee. They never evaluated and the indirect source rule from the warehouses, 4,000 warehouses or hundreds of systems on the contingency. They never evaluated this. It's totally illegal. The system is failing. This pre-treatment, we've got a system failure. That the impact of this and the real costs in health and in the environment, in our ecosystem, is outrageous. It is not just trillions of dollars, it's quadrillions. That's the real. Enough is enough. You never evaluated this stuff. It's outrageous, and it's still going on now. It's taken over the market. 95% worldwide of power plants go in are solar and renewables, and you've never evaluated this. It's illegal as hell. And people are dying from this, and our ecosystem as well. And then you call it zero emissions and neuter it. It is the only energy import for our planet, the sun. That's an opportunity to educate people. That's not being done. This is controlled by fossil fuel, and it's outrageous. Your captured agencies in 82 economic Nobel was given out. And Skigler and then this is also captured agency. It's RICO. Enough's enough.
All right. Thank you very much for your comment, Harvey. Moving on, next is Allison Torres with the EMWD. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Allison Torres with Eastern Municipal Water District and also representing Clean Water SoCal. So I appreciate the conversation and the detailed presentation and all the discussion here. And I understand that the major source listings, specifically for flares and sulfur treatment, are specific to landfills. But I'm kind of looking at this, on behalf of the wastewater sector and our members, and I have a couple questions. So looking specifically at the PM and the VOC layer listings, I'm trying to understand, and I didn't see it in the listing form, what PM reduction technology is being used, since PM reduction typically isn't directly tied to the flare technology. And I didn't see that detail in the listing forms as far as whether these flares are using a, more improved PM control technology versus what's been used in previous years to achieve the current PM limits. So I guess my comment there would be to maybe improve the information on the listing to be more clear on that. Also, with regard to the VOC limits and even the PM limits, the compliance margin with the results that were shown are pretty slim, and I was just wondering how that margin is determined when determining these limits, since a lot of the PM control and the VOC and the ability to meet both of those limits rely heavily on some of the inlet concentrations, and that can vary by facility. It's a little concerning on whether those can be met across the board with different site conditions. And then so I guess in terms of, the varying concentrations for the VOCs, I guess my comment and suggestion there would be to include more detail in the listing on the VOC inlet concentrations that were measured during those different source tests that are used in the listing. And again, the details on the PM control devices. And also maybe some clarification on the expression of the VOC limits in terms of whether they're expressed as hexane or as methane or carbon. Sometimes limits are not always consistent in permits in terms of what units they're enforcing. And yeah, those are my comments on the VOCs. I don't know if you want to respond to any of those, because I know this is during public comment and not on the actual committee.
All right, I think on some of those, we'll definitely take back on. I'll ask staff if there's anything they wish to address. I will add on as what VOC is being reported on, we do make a concerted effort to specify how it's being reported in the determination listings. That's usually under the source testing info, just so you know. We agree that is important information. But let me hand it off to staff if there's any individual questions in there that they want to address.
And Allison, thank you so much for your comments, and I appreciate that if you also provide your written comments during the 30-day public comment period, so we can also address them.
All right, thank you. Before we go to the next commenter online, we have a hand raised in the room.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for your patience on the subject. It clearly is an issue for the waste sector, so we appreciate the patience. Quick question is for the pretreatment BACT determinations and the flare determination. Is that listed BACT or LAIR anywhere else in the state or in the country yet? Or is this the first determination for these?
The sulfur has been in Ventura County, but you are referring to VOC and PM, right, Dave? Not the sulfur limit. 85,
sulfur.
60 and 85, there has been in the Ventura County initially.
I understand permits have been issued in Ventura County, but it has been a determination via BACT and
As a
LAIR
BACT,
from Ventura County or any other air district.
I'm not aware of
Just the
any, at least
process,
in the Ventura County.
If that is not the case, there are requirements we should be going through here to comply with state law. So just, it's an important question. So I encourage you to check on that.
I do want to add, for major sources, the requirements aren't there. South Coast has very specific requirements for scientific review committee, cost effectiveness for minor sources that do not apply to other air districts. So they don't necessarily go through the same process in establishing LAIR, other than they do have their permits issued. It's been established and tested.
There's a health and safety code section we can, quote if it need be.
And I'll say for these have been issued permits and are operating in our district.
Understood. And just to reemphasize, this is really important for the waste sector as far as reliability, ability to operate properly. So when we start talking about adding an inlet concentration limit to a flare, it's a little troubling for us. And then how far does this go to allow us to operate reliably? So that's why you're getting all of these comments. So we appreciate your tolerance in listening to us, and hopefully we could address some of this so it's reliable. That's where we're coming from.
All right, that's why we have this committee. So I really appreciate it. All the comments, and continue to encourage written comments after this. Thank you for your comment. And then we'll go back onto the Zoom for public comments. Todd Shibata. Go ahead, Todd, with your comment.
Hello, this is Todd Shibata with Riverside County Department of Waste Resources. And I had a few comments regarding the sulfur control systems and the flares. Just as a general comment for both, I think AQMD acknowledged, right, that emissions do vary based on fuel composition. And so first off, landfill gas, the fuel composition varies greatly over sites. And so when your AIPs are single site examples, I think you're missing the variability of the fuel composition when you're making these determinations. So I'm not sure that the AIPs kind of meet the effectiveness standard when we're saying that they have to operate effectively over a range of the operation expected. So that's kind of the first general comment on both of those. The second one is on the sulfur control system. The monitoring on slide 27, there's these two options that are specified on the monitoring requirement. So I wasn't clear whether the new listing would give that option that you can comply with an inlet sulfur concentration or a SOx emission limit. But yeah, so it's just not clear to me what you have envisioned there when you have that on that slide. And then the second one is regarding the flares, and I think I echo some of the comments by Allison and by Warissa that it's not clear where we've come. The first in the first BACT meeting where the flares were introduced, there are multiple sites that were identified and the test results were there, and now we've just narrowed it down to a single site. And so it's not clear why. I'm not clear. I think you gave some explanation, but I'm not clear why that was done. And then I do think, yeah, some more detail would be helpful in trying to evaluate this listing, where Allison mentioned inlet concentrations. I think destruction efficiency would be another one that would be helpful because the variability of the fuel composition, I think, is going to be pretty important and whether it can really broadly apply across the industry. So I think those are my comments. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your comments. I'm going to respond to a few of them quickly, but again, I encourage you to submit a written comment so we can respond completely. So regarding the slide, I forgot the number, 27. So the two monitoring requirements we included in the slides is pretty much reflecting the requirement in Rule 431.1 when it kind of says the operator burning any gases other than natural gas in a stationary sources, then they have two options. One of them is that to use the continuous fuel gas monitoring system or CFGMS to determine the sulfur content of the fuel calculated as H2S, or they can also use a continuous emission monitoring system or CEMS to determine SOx emission after burning in the combustion device. So these are pretty much reflecting the same requirement in the rule. And then regarding the information we provided in the scoping meeting last time, in general, the first BACT SRC meeting, we call it a scoping meeting, and we present a general idea about what we are going to incorporate or update in each round before we take it to the stationary resource and governing board eventually. And then based on the information we receive, we will narrow it down to incorporate achieving practice case for our determinations. And I mean, based on the regulation, we need to provide at least one achieving practice case. And we try to use the examples as more information has been operation longer than the others, also has the sources data that shows that it was in compliance. So the very first meeting we had, which was our scoping meeting, we tried to show the kind of the number of facilities that we have that they are complying with emission limits for VOC and PM. And then for this round, we use one of them with more sources data to bring it to the committee and also included the BACT determination form for that. And then regarding the destruction efficiency, I totally understand the variation in the landfill gas and the sulfur content and VOC. So also we look at the destruction efficiency for this facility over the 4 subsequent and 1 initial source test. So for all of the subsequent source tests, it shows that it has been achieved more than 99.60% destruction efficiency. So as you know, the rule requirement is 98%, but this facility is able to meet much more than that over the past 4 years. So even if you look at the destruction efficiency, it seems that it was achievable. And in addition, we contacted John Zing to see that what are the criteria requirements, and they provided some information regarding that one of the main factors to be able to meet those criteria is the maintenance of the flare system. So those are the information that we received. But again, I encourage you to submit a written comment so we can respond in a more, I guess, precise way. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
I can submit a written comments. not a
Okay,
problem.
thank,
Yeah,
thank you very much. We'll keep moving on. I do really appreciate this discussion. This is why the committee's here. So we'll bring this public comment to a close. Right now, gonna hand it over to David Ono for next steps to close it out before general public comment. David, go ahead.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, so we introduced this, I think the last meeting, how we're trying to streamline how we run the BACT SRC meetings. It's been kind of more ad hoc in the last few years. And so we want to kind of get on a more routine schedule. So we're opening this up for discussion in terms of having the meetings more fixed and more regularly scheduled, and looking at whether we want to do I would say biannual or triannual. Just for example, if we did it triannual, we'd meet once every quarter, and then the fourth quarter could be a presentation to the governing board, which would give some certainty in terms of scheduling out, and then with the ability to maybe do more remote participation, it could help in planning travel, et cetera. So we're looking for feedback on, what people think in terms of having a fixed schedule, what fixed schedules work better than others. If we do once a quarter, is it like the second month of each quarter? To me, that seems like it's more certain, and it doesn't necessarily conflict with holidays but open to suggestions on that topic. It also provides an opportunity for us to, as new permits come online and we have more cases to present, we don't necessarily have to have them all together at once. They could be in different stages of review, and then the ones that are ready to go, we can push those forward. So we're trying to be in a position to be able to have listings more rapidly, so that they're not awaiting and slowing down permitting decisions. Okay, so in terms of the next steps following this meeting, we're going to be opening up for a 30-day public comment. That takes us, I forget what does that take us to? June 30th. I think it matches up well with the calendar. And then we'll be scheduling the Stationary Source Committee later on in the year, and projected to go to the governing board after that. So again, we're looking for feedback on everything we presented, the guidelines, the administrative sections, the actual determinations, as well as the concept for having more fixed meetings going forward. So there's the date right there. I should have waited till I changed the slide. So June 30th, 30 days, looking for that. And please send it to the BACT team at aqmd.gov when providing your comments. As a reminder, for anyone else who's just checking in, please sign up on to receive, the regular communications on our new e-newsletter, then they'll be sure to get all the notifications for upcoming events. And this is the list of the contacts. And I'll give it back to you, Jason.
All right. Do you want to open up for task force member discussion on some of those items? Rita?
Yes, and this was on the scheduling and timing portion. I would be fine with either, twice a year or 3 times a year. Either way is fine. The one thing that I would be concerned with would be just going to the governing board only once a year, because that several BACT listings are backed up. So generally, I think once upon a time, there was every 6 months a BACT report to the governing board. So I would favor at least updating the board twice a year. And then in the event that there is no new information, that, meeting could be adjusted or canceled. But I would be concerned with having a lot of BACT listings, like we had a lot at this meeting.
Yeah. I think, the intent, I think we could always go to the governing board whenever they're ready. I think I've always envisioned something of a rolling process where it's not a batch process. So it wouldn't prohibit when we're ready to go to the governing board to just be a month, a time period set aside to go there, but we could always do it in between as well. But thank you for that. Any other comments on that?
I was just going to observe that, if we met 3 times a year, that might make for shorter meetings because we wouldn't have such a backlog of case studies. So something to consider.
I totally agree. And that is a discussion we had in planning for this meeting and how we put together the agenda, because we recognize we would have a robust discussion on a select few of these. So agree there. All right. I'm going to open up for public. I guess we have a task force member on Zoom. Ramin is enjoying the new privilege of remote participation. Go ahead, Ramin.
I am. Thank you guys so much. Apologies, I had to head out, but I support Bill and Rita's comments about 2 or 3 times works for me. No preference on the timing of the month. I'm open, but having that fixed schedule and more frequent meetings, I support that with just prevent the backlog. So support.
Great. We will work on that and probably bring it back to the next meeting. Let me on this item. Let me just open it up to public comment if there's any public comment on the meeting schedule or any of those next steps. Seeing none, let me open it up for the final slide is a general public comment on any items under the purview of the BACT Scientific Review Committee meeting. Any general public comment in the room or on Zoom? I think we have one in-house, Wayne Miller.
I should have asked earlier. I noticed that all the cost effectiveness is based on VOC, but in table 5, it's actually based on ROG. So do you have a conversion factor that converts ROG to VOC?
I think that was a pending item we had that was still going to be resolved in the future.
Right. Yeah, that's something we are looking. You brought it up last time and we started to look, and you're right. This is not consistent with our current practice because all of the emissions we are reporting in the BACT determination, they are as VOC. So that one, we are looking through the historical documents and the basis, and we will try to adjust it as soon as possible. And thank you for your comment.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, want to thank everybody again. Bring the meeting to a close. I do want to recognize we are missing somebody today who is supposed to present, but Ash Khan, the AQ engineer in the team, is welcoming a new baby to his family. So obviously expected, but timing was such that we had to fill in on the presentation. So I hope they are all doing well, and best of luck to them getting sleep tonight. All right. Thank you everyone online and here in the room with us. Appreciate your participation. And again, get those written comments into us in the next 30 days. Have a good night, everybody.